Hari Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Sri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopa Karotam Pravaram Muninam Patanjali Pranjalina Natosmi. Hari Om. We are in the last Antima Pada of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Kaivalya Pada. The discussion on the Kaivalya Pada begins with the ability of the yogi to materialize any jiva that he wants. Perhaps the highest attainment within the Prakruti is to produce a chitta in the Prakruti. Prakruti, which is nothing else but matter, does produce everything that we see around us, which is, of course, enlivened by the consciousness. But the plethora of things, the varieties and the diversities that we see is nothing else but the creation of Prakruti. The ability to create another chitta is virtually conquering the ability of Prakruti itself. But the yogi is able to do that. And how does he do that? When a new individual is to be formed, when a new jiva is to be formed, what is a jiva ultimately? May it be a bacteria, a human being, or animal, or mountain, or anything for that matter. Every jiva is normally referred as jivatma, meaning combination of the matter and the consciousness together, or consciousness surrounding the center called chitta. Consciousness is all pervading. Purusha is all pervading. But when it decides, or when it is made to appear through a particular center, it is called a jiva. A limited expression of universal consciousness through an absolute minimized or limited window is nothing else but creation of chitta. And how does that consciousness expresses itself? Depending upon the type of chitta. That means chitta is nothing else but mode or modality of expression of consciousness. The water shall flow openly with like a river covering both the banks in a wider form like Ganga. Or the water can get the shape of a small glass. The water remains the same. The water is now limited by the vessel called a glass. This is called limiting adjunct or upadhi. The upadhi of the glass makes the consciousness appear that the water is in glass. Actually, water is never in the glass, need not be in the glass, cannot be in the glass. Water is ever flowing, widest in its application, like a river. So expression of consciousness through an instrument is called chitta, or the instrument which expresses limited consciousness is called chitta. The chitta, if it is limited expression of consciousness, then who creates the chitta? The chitta is created according to the need for the expression of consciousness. Where from the need came? The need came because of the karma. The previous karma leading to the phala, and for the phala upabhoga, a particular set of vehicle is required. Let us say somebody has a desire to fly in the sky. Flying in the sky is the desire, but I am in a human form. I won't be able to fly. Now that I want to fly as a karma, phala, bhoga, roop, then I shall be in that particular set of circumstances called bird. My desire to fly in the sky will be fulfilled because the chitta at that point of time shall assume required equipment around the consciousness so that the desire can be fulfilled. So the consciousness got bound to the body of the bird for the sake of phala bhoga rupata of the flying desire. That is how the yoni of pakshi or bird was given to that particular jiva. So what happened then? The chitta of the bird got the required consciousness and the required material or equipment, and a bird was born and the icha of flying was fulfilled. See, Maharaj, the whole existence is nothing else but continuous fulfillment of desires by different individuals who consider themselves individualized. Then who is the one who doesn't have this particular thing? One who is not individualized. Who is not individualized? Who has recognized himself to be universal. Who has recognized himself to be universal? The yogi of the highest order, the nishpanna yogi or nishkama yogi. Now that the yogi is desireless, there is no individualization required. He is not interested in individualizing the consciousness. Naturally, the one who doesn't want the water into different kind of vessels will naturally be privy to the river. So he becomes aware of the universal consciousness because individualization is absent. Now that he knows about this universalization of consciousness, there is another aspect that happens, and that other aspect is same yogi now is a privy to utilization of consciousness. The one who is close to the river can definitely take a little bit of water in his hand and put it into any vessel that he wants because he is now staying right at the river. Since the universality of the consciousness is known to him, he can use the consciousness and get it individualized. This is what is precisely called the nirmana chitta. The yogi has an ability to take part of the consciousness, put it into an individualized form, And moment the consciousness is put into the center called chitta, which is nothing else but expression of consciousness, the matter automatically gets attracted and a body is formed around it. Let us see it in very crude language. A yogi decides that he wants to create a dog. This is just an analogy. He will never create a dog unless there is a reason for it. What he will do is, he will create the chitta of the dog, of course, bring forth the consciousness and direct it there. Moment the chitta is created by bringing consciousness around that chitta, because this consciousness has come there to represent the dog, the matter, the Panchamahabhutas are reordered, readjusted to bring those elements which are necessary to form the body of the dog. And that is how, oh, it is dog, it will have 4 legs. 4 legs are formed. He is not going to stand on 2 legs, so it will start working. So everything anurupa to that particular consciousness point, the locus, the point where the consciousness is brought is called chitta. Around the chitta, the matter comes and forms the body, and that is how a new sharira is formed, which is called nirmana kaya. So yogi is sitting at one place without moving an inch, is able to reproduce any chitta anywhere and have proportionate body to that chitta at that point of time. This is called nirmana chitta, nirmana kaya. Now comes the question, how is that new individual going to behave? Yogi created another man, and now that man started doing all kind of papa karma. Is that possible? See, Maharaj, remember, our bodies are formed in what manner? Our bodies are formed because of our chitta. And then in this chitta, we get different samskaras because of the karma. And then this karma takes its own time to fructify. We have some animal tendencies. Those animal tendencies fructify after maybe 1,000 birth or 1 birth. We don't know. But when they fructify, what happens? In order to fructify that phalabhoga, proportionate body is created. So if it was my intense desire to run always at a fast speed, I will be born as a horse. This icha of running with wind every now and then, it remains dormant till phala bhoga anurupa paristhiti comes after some time. When it will come, difficult to say, because this buddhi cannot understand it. Yogaja buddhi can. So in that particular birth, when I am going to be horse, what happened? I got the chitta having the impression or samskara of the horse, and the matter formed horse's body around it. How and when did this happen? After some time. I did karma or desire in this birth, and I got fulfilled in another 3,000 years. So the only difference between yogi creating nirmana chitta and our chitta is, we, in our case, it happens because of our desire, and it happens over a period of time. So kalam is the limiting factor for us. But for the yogi, he doesn't have to wait for 3,000 years. He does it instantaneously. The difference between yogi creating nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya and our chitta and kaya is, ours is evolutionary proceedings happening at a certain pace, keeping pace with the factor called kalam or time. But in case of yogi, it is instantaneous. See, Maharaj, some of the granthas, including the Bible, is normally taken very lightly. He said, let there be light, and there was light. This is in the beginning of Bible. Now we all say, what a stupid grantha. Let there be light. How can they light? Sir, it is possible because at the yoga jnana, for the yogi of excellently high order, resting into the highest level of consciousness, creating the bodies and the mind is not a difficult thing. How many chittas and bodies the yogi will create? It depends on him. There could be 1,000 chittas and 1,000 bodies. That means 1,000 new entities created by him. And what do? A natural curiosity in us is a yogi created one man, one woman. First of all, why will he do it? And second, what do? Do they behave like us? Or is he exactly a copy of the yogi? The answer to this is nimitta prayojakam prakrutinam varana bhedastu tataha kshitrikvat. The third sutra says, yogi does not create Prakruti. Remember, yogi does not get Panchamahabhutas in the hand and sculpts the man out of it. No. What he does is, Prakruti is anyway flowing. Water is anyway flowing. So the farmer doesn't create water. He channelizes the water to his field. The river is flowing. The farmer goes and creates a channel so that the water flows in that channel and goes to his field. Similarly, a yogi creates a channel for Prakruti to flow in the chitta. So he removes the pratibandha. What is pratibandha on the river? The bank is the pratibandha. So the farmer breaks the bank and creates a channel. Similarly, yogi removes the pratibandha in the Prakruti and allows the Prakruti to flow in the direction of that chitta which he has created, nirmana chitta. Naturally, the body is formed. So he doesn't create Panchamahabhutas. No, sir. That he doesn't do. He lets the Panchamahabhutas operate at a point which he directs. That is his siddhi. That is his power. That is his authority. So there is no question of yogi creating Prakruti. He directs the Prakruti, prayojakam. Such a Prakruti, to understand how he must be creating, let us take an example. We all know that the sugar, the normal sugar that we eat, which is called sucrose, I believe it may be C22O11H12, some formula, that is the sugar. Now, this sugar, if it is taken into a small beaker in a small pot, and suppose we pour on that sulfuric acid, what will happen? The sugar will burn and it will become carbon, black. Suppose we pour hydrochloric acid, glucose and fructose will be formed. Suppose we put some yeast into it, it will ferment and become alcohol. So what happened? Sugar became alcohol, sugar became carbon, sugar became glucose and fructose. What had changed? Sugar changed into these three things. Why? Because hydrochloric or sulfuric or yeast was added. So nimitta matram is yeast or hydrochloric acid. Similarly, the yogi uses exactly that role. Rest everything in sugar, there is a potentiality to become fructose. Sugar cannot become mercury. Sugar can become glucose and fructose. That potentiality in sugar to become glucose and fructose is already existing. By chemical, we made it happen immediately. Similarly, Prakruti is anyway capable, potential to change and transform into anything is already inherent into it. In the restaurant, the kitchen already has everything ready. What happens? We order, the waiter brings. Similarly, waiter is in the form of Prakruti. Yogi is the customer who orders. And Prakruti anyway has everything. She brings what you needed for you to eat. Similarly, whatever the yogi desired, Prakruti brings forward, because yogi has directed the consciousness there to form a chitta. In fact, Prakruti is operating by creating different chittas and getting consciousness into it. That is why the plurality is there. The stone is formed, mountain is formed, man is formed, animal is formed, an ant is formed. Bhuta Sanghat, integration of the Pancha Mahabhutas to create a particular form. So that is how Nimitta Prayojakam Prakrutinam Varana Bhedastu Kshatrikvat, like a farmer, just coverings are destroyed, or the Pratibandha is destroyed by the yogi so that it starts flowing into a particular direction. Now, there lies a very grand philosophical truth in this particular sutra. And what is the grand philosophical truth? All our actions are not good or bad. Our actions do not make our life good or bad. Then what happens? Our actions simply direct the Prakruti to flow in that direction. That flow may result in you suffering. That is a different thing. The phala bhoga is a different thing. Water, when it is in river, it can be made to flow towards the field, or it can be made muddy by putting mud into it. The water just behaves the way it is ordered to behave. So every action we do, the thoughts, the deeds, so the thought action both lead to formation of channel for the Prakruti. In the Prakruti, every three gunas are there everywhere. Which guna you want to come in your way depends on what action you perform. I tried to steal some money from somebody, tamo guna starts flowing. Action is not good or bad. Prakruti is flowing, that is the effect. As a result of tamoguna, what will happen? Again, you will feel like doing tamogunic activity. Then again, tamoguna will flow. Then again, you will do tamoguna. Then slowly, everything will be tamogunamaya, dark. No, I'm doing deva puja, sattvic activity. Prakruti doesn't say your activity is good or bad. It says what is that you did? Sattvic activity. Let the sattva guna flow. Now what will happen? The next thoughts, actions, deeds will be as per sattva guna. Then what will happen? Again sattvic activity. Then what will happen? Again sattva guna. The actions that we do decide and direct the flow of Prakruti at that particular karma phala bhoga rupata. Now my action can be desire, thought, or deed. Suppose my desire is to enjoy food. Now what happened? The desire has to be fulfilled. For the karma made by the desire of eating the food, now the Prakruti starts acting on it. What is that he wants to eat? He wants to eat gulab jamun. Okay. Now the gulab jamun is not eaten by the animals. Trees don't eat gulab jamun. Only human beings born in India, they eat gulab jamun. So now the Prakruti has to wait till appropriate set of instrument can be given to this gentleman to fulfill his karma phala bhoga. So the person gets born in India. He has two hands because he's going to hold the gulab jamun. Cat cannot hold a gulab jamun. Appropriate set of circumstances. And with the tongue, he will enjoy. Because he's not a dog. The dog will enjoy by sniffing. Proportionate to the desire, proportionate to the karma phala bhoga, set of circumstances are created so that the karma phala bhoga becomes possible. Now the question is, when the nirmana kaya is made, or nirmana chitta is made. Nirmana chitta is the instrument for expression of, first is instrument for expression of consciousness. Without consciousness, there is nothing. There is nothing in this world without consciousness. So the first thing is presence of consciousness, then creating the body or the Prakruti around it. First, the owner of the house, then the house is made. You cannot have only house without owner. So you cannot have Prakruti forming a body or forming something without consciousness. Not possible, sir, because Prakruti forms the thing only for the sake of consciousness. Which consciousness? Individualize the consciousness, which is a jiva. But if somebody is not individualized, he is universal consciousness. Prakruti has no role to play because he is a useless customer for her. Gurudeva. Our Gurudeva was a useless customer for the Prakruti. Why? He has no desire, nishkama, there is no phala, there is no phala bhoga. The game is over. Prakruti is a distributor standing at a desk to give you what you wanted. So if you come and you say, I want this, she will give you that. If the customer is not coming, the Prakruti will have the store, but there is no distribution possible. Why? Because a customer is not coming. Gurudeva did not go as a customer to Prakruti. He said, as a result, no desire, no karma phala. Then what Prakruti said? No point in individualizing consciousness for this gentleman. He is useless customer for me. So he became one with the universal consciousness. And the one who is one with the universal consciousness naturally becomes the master of the Prakruti. And then instead of he becoming a customer for Prakruti, Prakruti becomes a customer for the universal consciousness. And that is how a yogi tells the Prakruti that, hello, I am planting consciousness here. Do rest of the things. Then what happens? The consciousness goes into that. That planting consciousness is called chitta. Around the chitta, the body is formed. Both are produced by whom? Not by the Prakruti, but by the yogi, by use of the Prakruti. That is why that chitta is called nirmana chitta. Now imagine, in the universe, Prakruti is operating on its own. People are doing papam, punyam, they are getting sharira. All the operation of Prakruti is going on. And amidst this whole thing, there is this kingly yogi who is creating new bodies and new minds. They are nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya. So how does the yogi do that? He knows that all you need to create a jiva is to individualize the consciousness. to bring the whole consciousness, take small part of it and plant it somewhere. Individualizing the consciousness is called asmita. In fact, when Prakruti evolved, if one remembers correctly the tattvas of Sankhya, after the Mahat Tattva, what comes? Ahankar, Asmita. Ahankar is individualization. Prakruti has evolved in the same manner. Because Yogi is the master of everything, he creates Asmita. Prakruti is anyway creating it. That is how we are all born. But he can create it at his will anytime, instantaneously. The only difference. So now that he creates Asmita, Prakruti immediately gathers around it with its gunas, body is formed. So look at this. A yogi is like a potter. Prakruti is like clay. And Asmita is the water. Asmita and clay come together, water and clay. Now the potter can give any shape. He may make a vessel out of it. He may make a plate out of it. It's up to him. So yogi creates in this manner nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya. The only thing is, since the yogi creates the nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya, which is within the purview of the Prakruti, he has to follow the laws of Prakruti. Since the farmer is using water of Ganga for farming his land, he has to obey the laws of Ganga. What are the laws of Ganga? It will flow from upper end to the lower end. Water will never go from lower end to upper end. Why? That is the rule of water. So the farmer follows that. He doesn't try to take water upward. He says, downward I will take the water. That means he's following the rules of Ganga or the water river. Similarly, yogi creates nirmana chitta and kaya, but since it is within Prakruti, he follows the rules of Prakruti. That is the reason why when we want to wriggle out of this Prakruti or wriggle out of this individualization, wriggle out of this feeling of Jivatma and wants to become universal consciousness, the whole process of moksha or the emancipation is through the Prakruti only. We are stuck in Prakruti. We are going to get out of Prakruti by using Prakruti. We are trying to go nistraigunya. We are trying to go beyond the three gunas. How? By using the gunas. Ramakrishna Paramahansa calls this in a very beautiful manner. He says, we are removing a thorn by using another thorn. And after removing the thorn, what do? Throw both the thorns. That is how Prakruti is used by the yogi to go onto the higher levels of consciousness. It is like wriggling out the restricted consciousness and making it broader and broader till a point when no more wriggling is required, then you throw everything. You do sattva karma, sattvic karma. What is sattvic karma? Sattva guna. Sattva guna is in Prakruti because gunas are Prakrutis. So you are doing Prakrutik thing for getting rid of the Prakruti till you are in Prakruti. So such an artificial mind created by the yogi and the artificial body created by the yogi. What is the outcome of such things? How do these new bodies behave? There is a curiosity in the mind. The curiosity is fulfilled in this manner. Whatever is produced in Prakruti, which is basically Karya, has to carry the traits of the Karana into it. Because Karana, from a particular thing is occurred or yogurt is made. Karan is dugdham. Only dugdham can become curd. Water cannot. Why? कार्य में कारण के गुण समाविष्ट हो जाते हैं. It is included, it is encompassed in it. So when a yogi creates the chitta, it has to be the chitta of yogi himself projecting there. So it cannot be a bad chitta. It is nothing else but the replica of yogi's chitta. That means it is pure, pristine, clear, because yogi is already at that level. In order to understand how the Nirvana Chitta is created, we can take another analogy also. When we take a seed of the plant, are we not sure that this seed is nothing else but the tall tree after 20 years? The seed is a very small thing where we are absolutely sure that it's going to be a big tree. It will take time. That means how the tree is already compacted in that small seed, we don't know. It expresses as a tree, that we know. But how tree is implanted in its complete potentiality in that small seed, we do not know. The seed becomes tree after 30 years. Now imagine, we have a seed in the hand, which we just planted, and tomorrow morning there is a tree. We will say technically not possible. Why? We are bound by the time column. In case of yogi, that happens. The seed is put, tree has come. In other words, if you look at the flux called Prakruti, there is a Prakruti transformation happening, which is going to result in formation of a Shvana Yoni. A dog will be born out of Prakruti after 300 years. Let us say the example of the person who is talking, myself. Suppose I am going to go into Tiryak Yoni or Deva Yoni. Let us why I call Tiryak Deva Yoni. Why not talk good about oneself? I am going to be God or Deva Yoni after 3000 years. Let us say that. Meaning what? Currently, I am in this frame called Dr. Jadhav, which is now going to flow 3000 years, and he will be Deva in the Deva Yoni. I can't see it because I have no ability to see where I will go or from where I have come. But the yogi not only knows that the gentleman who is speaking is nothing else but a Deva Yoni person of 3000 years, he can move the person without waiting for 3000 years into that area. But will he do it for me? He will not. Why? I have my own baggage that is taking me forward. But for the yogi himself, can he himself project into 3000 years? He can. Should he wait for 3000 years? No. So it is instantaneous nirmana chitta, nirmana kaya. Number depends on yogi. Shape, size, etc. depends on yogi, because his Prakruti Jaya. It is on the potter to decide what to make today, a big pot or a small pot. Up to him, because the matter is ready, the clay is ready. That is why in case of many births, we do find there are no definite clues. In case of Christianity, Christ is called Immaculate Conception. What is Immaculate Conception? Not by father and mother coming together. Christ was born. That is why Mary is virgin. Now, there are lots of discussion. The new modern people say that's absurdity. How can you be born without this? Sir, you are. It is absurdity because you have a limited intellect to understand. creation of the body for you requires coming together or mating of male and female, which is not the precondition for the yogi. We all know that Kabir, birth, there are a lot of controversies. Some say he was born out of undue wedlock, and as a small baby, he was put into a basket, then picked up by a Muslim weaver couple, and that is how, otherwise, he was a son of a Brahmin. All these are stories woven around that. But, sir, for the yogi to be born like a baby is not a difficult thing. And because it was a baby called Kabir, Kabir himself was a highly escalated yogi. He was at a higher level as a yogi. Quite possible it was nothing else but the nirmana chitta nirmana kaya of a yogi. In Maharashtra, there is a saint very famous called Swami Samartha from Kalkot. Now, nothing is known about him. If you try to read about his biography, there is nothing like his birth and all that. He appeared directly, grown-up man. Avatarit. He was just found that, oh, he came in this place. Where was he earlier? Nobody knows. There are lots of stories that he was there and from there suddenly disappeared and came. Appearance and disappearance of Chitta and Kaya is a game at the hands of yogi. The body is extinguished at his will. The body is formed at his will. In which stage, in which yoni, at what age, in which form, everything depends on him. He's a master creator. The question comes here, if he is so nishkama, para, vairagya, desireless, why is he creating this nirmana chitta and kaya? See, Maharaj, Patanjali Yoga Sutra takes you to the very, very intricate details of philosophy. It is not a superficial philosophy. It is very deep, Raja, Guhya. Bhagavad Gita, Yogeshwara has already spoken all these things, but they are in subtle form. One of the most difficult grantha to understand is Bhagavad Gita. Upanishad, maybe we can, but Bhagavad Gita is difficult because cryptic clues are there. And mind well, Bhagavad Gita starts with the glory of Sankhya. Bhagavan comes to Karma Yuga later on, but it starts from Sankhya. Then Yoga. Sankhya is a elated philosophy because of this. So the yogi, when he decides to do a nirmana chitta, the reason for that is the yogi has dagdha karma bija. That means karmashaya is destroyed. There is no phala bhoga dependent. There is no phalam icha. There is no phala bhogata dormant in his mind. It is all gone. Dagdha bijata. That is what we call Viveka Khyati. Viveka Khyati means you have reached a paravairagya. There is nothing that you want. Desires have become zero. Tukaram Maharaj says, Nirashecha Gava Didhala Amhasi. He says, Vithala has given me a place to stay. The name of that place is Nirasha. There is no Asha. Then why the whole effort the yogi is doing of creating another body? It is because the vasanas of the past births are lying dormant. Now, you will say that, just now you said if there is no Icha, then how can Vasana lie dormant? That is because we have never paid attention to know what is the difference between Icha and Vasana. It's an elaborate subject, and we need to understand precisely the difference between Icha and Vasana to understand how they are different. So far, our understanding has been, you have desire, Icha, then that leads to repetitive Icha, becomes Vasana, and this Vasana then propels you to, it's all outer covering. Why? Because Karma Vasana and Anubhava Vasana, these are two different things. What is Karma Vasana? What is Anubhava Vasana? We need to see. We are going to see that in detail, because I have no Icha, let us say. A yogi says, I have no Icha whatsoever. However, in one of my, or even in my current birth, when I was going to Himalayas, someone fed me some food. So I developed a runanu bandha with that particular person. And I went forward as a yogi and became yogi. And now I have gone beyond desires. Although I have gone beyond desires, my runanu bandha with the interaction that I had presupposes that that person who fed me needs to be paid back for his sakrutya, and that requires an interaction with him because of runanubandha. Such supta vasana terminations are obtained by the yogi by creating nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya. Again, to elaborate further, I have no desires. When you have no desires, what happens when you have no desires? Your future births are avoided. Yes. I have a desire to, let us say, eat good food. So that means I have a desire. Now there is a karmashaya. That karmashaya will make me take a birth, and then I will have good food. This cycle is broken when there is no desire. Agreed. But because of past desires, I had some impressions on my mind. What about those impressions? Chitta Sanskar. See, the doctrine of karma is the most difficult to understand and pretty confusing also. We are going to have it dissected in detail as much as we can with the help of Patanjali Maharaj. I do a karma. Let us say, because of my Icha, I am doing a particular karma. What is the karma I am doing? The karma, there was the Icha of eating good food. So now it has become phaladrupa. So I'm eating food. Now what happened? There was a desire to eat jalebi, and I am eating jalebi. So karma and karma phala over. Now what has happened? While eating the jalebi, I got an idea that if it is crisp, it is excellent. If it is juicy, it gives a pleasure. And if they are plenty, all the more better. See, karma was only to eat jalebi. That time, crisp number was not as a part of Icha or desire. Or the components of the desire were 3, 4, 5, 10, some number. But while experiencing the fulfillment of the desire, the experience leads to a different connotation. I am thirsty. So water will quench the thirst. Karma and phalam, over. Agreed. But while drinking the water, nothing like a cold water in the summer. This was not part of the previous Icha of drinking the water. So that means every experience of the karma phala bhoga leads to some impressions arising out of fulfillment of karma itself. You are planting the mango seed because you know that it is going to rise to mango tree, but while doing so, some other small plants are also formed around, which are not wanted, but they just came. Because why? There was a water, there was a clay, and that is how they got sufficient ability to come. So karma giving to karma phala, and karma phala bhoga giving to something else. So karma phala, phala bhoga, phala bhogotpanna vasana. These differences we are going to see in detail. But yogi, since he has no desire, yet he is trying to fulfill what? By creating nirmana chitta. He is trying to fulfill the vasanas arisen out of that, lying into the sanchita form, which haven't fructified yet as prarabdha. He can exhaust them. For us, we need to wait for sanchita to fructify so that only prarabdha can be exhausted. Right now, we are exhausting prarabdha. Sanchita, we don't know what is the quantum, where it is, how much, what, etc. In case of yogi, the quantity itself has gone down. There is no new creation. Nishkam karma, no new creation. All right. But the supta, vasana, samskara, they have become feeble. They become very feeble, very small. But even good vasanas, like when he was doing this yoga, he was telling that sarve sukhina bhavantu. It is a desire. Sarve santu niramaya. Desire. Good or bad doesn't matter. See, we're talking of now higher classes. You may get exhausted by lying down and idling yourself, or you may get exhausted by doing exercise. Exhausted by exercise is a good thing, but still it is an exhaustion. So the punya karma, which is again prompted by the desires, those are desirous, because only when even those desires are gone, the desire prompted actions, the desire prompted impressions still lie dormant into the mind. Those are exhausted by this nirmana chitta and kaya, and ability to do this exhaustion can be so humongous that entire sanchita can be exhausted. Jnanagni sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute is a statement of Bhagavad Gita which is very deep in its meaning. Jnani, with the help of jnana, takes away all the seed impressions or the smrutis of the vasanas that have in his mind, because his new karma is anyway pure. That is why he's jnani. Jnanagni, first of all, when Jnana Agni is there, why should you say that karmani bhasmasat kurude? Karma itself should not exist, no? Jnana, why Jnanagni bhasmasat kurute? That means there is still an action left. Bhasmasat kurute itself is an action. If it is Jnanam pure, pure Jnanam doesn't have action. Sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute presupposes something more to be done. That something more is complete eradication of vasanas, howsoever good they may be. That is exhausted. And that is why those nirmana chitta and kaya of the yogi are directed by yogi himself. See, now if one mind is controlling 10 minds, Whose 10 minds? His own created 10 minds. So yogi creates other yogis, because what he creates is exact replica of him. He is already chitta shuddha. So what he creates is also going to be chitta shuddha nirmana chitta and chitta shuddha nirmana kaya. Satellite yogi, yogi's satellites. And through each of those nirmana kayas and nirmana chittas, he is exhausting the vasanas. And those vasanas are the supta vasanas, which are called sarva karmani. He is doing bhasmasat kurute. And he doesn't have to wait for many births, because we require many births to exhaust our vasanas. In the meantime, we again create new. So the cycle continues. His cycle has stopped. In other words, he's no more fetching the water from the well. Why? There's no desire. But the water already in the well also has to be taken out and made dry, which is sarva karmani bhasmasat kurute, for which the nirmana chitta and kaya is utilized, which almost happens like an automatic thing, because he's sitting at the highest possible level. This is called wriggling out of the Prakruti. He wants to sever last connection also with the Prakruti, because only when the last connection of the Prakruti is severed, he is able to see that Prakruti is different and Purusha is different. That itself is Kaivalya. This is the last act. That is why pravrutti bhede prayojakam chittam anekesham. Even though multiple nirmana chittas are there, the director of all those chittas is yogi's own chitta, because they are his replicas. That is why there is something called swabhavika mana, natural mind of the yogi, swabhavika chitta of the yogi, and this is called nirmana chitta, created mind and original mind. This is only in case of yogi. The highest yogi has multiple presence. All the siddhis that we saw in Vibhuti Pada are inferior siddhis, because in that yogi himself projects himself at a distance. But that is actually, he is creating himself there for a temporary phase. Parakaya pravesh. He leaves his body and enters into another body. This is not that. This is actually, this yogi remains. Another yogi is formed. Another yogi is formed. Another yogi is formed. Nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya. Such bold statements of creation of multiple personalities, multiple chittas, and creating bodies around it is only mentioned in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Sambhavami yuge yuge. That is why word sambhava has been used. For us, janma. For the Lord or for the yogi, sambhavami. Sambhavami. Getting made out of, not born out of. A yogi creates another chitta, sambhava. So yogi is a sambhava, is there, it is sambhava. That is why it does not follow time or kalam. That's why when yogi creates a chitta and kaya, it doesn't go through the system of a baby, a male, a female, and then no, sir, these are not applicable to them. Simply going wherever. What is the yogi wants to create? 35-year-old man, it will be created. A chitta of 35-year-old, because balaka chitta will have a bala samskar. That is how yogi, his intention, his ability to procreate his own replicas by formation of asmita and getting the Panchamahabhutas flow around that asmita to form the body, which is called nirmana kaya, for the sake of eradication of vasanas, only the impressions, because no new desires are coming, not for the sake of karma phala bhoga, for the sake of maintenance of runanubandha, which are mostly sattvic in nature, such chittas that are created are nothing else but the purest form of the same yogi. So such nirmana chitta and kaya will not do any wrong thing at any point of time, is the essence of sutras that are told up to the 5th sutra. This brings Patanjali Maharaj to the discussion of karma and vasana. Does the yogi do karma or not? Nahi kaschit jatu api tishtat akarma krut. If that is the case, then he is not dead as yet. He is a jivan mukta. What about his karma? Does he do karma? If what he does is not karma, then what it is? This nirmana chitta, nirmana kaya, is it not a karma? Then what are the types of karmas? How this yogi is different than the normal others, including the yogis in ascendance who has not yet reached that stage. Even the Sampradnyat Samadhi yogi also is still within the Prakruti, within the karma and vasana game. So what is this? What is called as Shukla karma? What is Krishna karma? What is Ashukla, Akrishna karma? What is Shukla Krishna karma? There is Punyam, there is Papam, there is Papa Punyam, and there is Apapa Apunyam. What are those 4 different types of karma? What exactly applies to the yogi? What applies to us? What is the reason of classifying these karmas into these 4 types? How they are related with the yogi is the subject discussion of our next session, starting with the 7th sutra. Karma ashukla akrishna yoginaha trividham itaresham. We shall see in detail about the different aspects of karma then. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnam Nidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay ji. We'll wait for some questions, but before I need to ask a few things. So morning I was trying to read from verse 2 to verse 4, just finding it a bit difficult to understand why is this called independence, and is this is the context of this text is going to be just more powers of the yogi, of what the yogi has. And what's the line of thought here in all the preceding verses? And also, I mean, it's just all over the place. I'm not able to gather it all together.
Vibhuti-pada that we saw, the 3rd section of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, is about siddhis. And siddhi means that which is possessed by siddha, the one who has attained or accomplished. His accomplishments are called siddhis. None of the siddhis are desired by the yogi. Supposing that, like we had this story of Alibaba and 40 whatever the thieves, in which that sesame or whatever some utterances was opening the treasure. After opening the treasure, when you go inside, you naturally are bound to see the diamonds and the rubies, etc. You do not enter with the intention of seeing them, but they do come on the way. So for the yogi, when he is trying to do the meditation and taking the meditation to its highest level, there are certain revelations at a higher level of consciousness that happen, which a common man gets mesmerized as siddhi, but the yogi is simply not bothered about it. Vivekananda said, fee upon these things, because they say, what is this? This is not what they want. They want to reach the Kaivalya. So entire Vibhuti-pada is talking about it. Then question comes that if these siddhis are coming to the yogi, What is the last siddhi, highest? How much? Where does it end? It ends by mastering the Prakruti. So when he masters the Prakruti, what can he do? The last thing he can do is create different individuals, chittas, nirmana chitta and nirmana kaya. How does that happen? The first few sutras are trying to tell that yogi or no yogi, this world which we call as Prakruti is constantly in the spin on its own by certain rules. That is exactly the sloka of 18th Adhyaya, Yantara Rudhani Mayaya. As if a machine is running continuously, Prakruti, with the help of three gunas, is constantly evolving, moving forward. It is happening. The yogi simply comes to know how Prakruti is operating and operates himself also as Prakruti and does certain things. Those are miraculous thing for us. It is a thing for him as a natural thing. And his entire purpose of knowing all this is to make use of every knowledge level, every siddhi as we call, for the further movement. He is able to converse with 100 people at 100 places. What is the purpose? Purpose is not to impress 100 people. Purpose is, oh, if this is the way consciousness can be used, let me now use it for the further meditation. It is like exploring every door and moving forward so that he can reach to the ultimate destination. And ultimate destination is to go out of the Prakruti. To go out of the Prakruti, you use the Prakruti and then throw the Prakruti. The process of abandoning the Prakruti and becoming Prakruti transcendent is the most difficult, the last bastion of the yogi. This being Kaivalya Pada, this being the discussion on that point, the sutras in the beginning are trying to tell us how the Prakruti operates at the higher level. Jatyaha Prakruti Purat, that is the second sutra, means whenever the species is born, the birth is nothing else but Prakruti flowing in a particular direction to form that particular Jiva. So Prakruti's operations are being discussed. All these are discussed with a singular purpose to describe the Kaivalya, the last stage, pure theoretical paroksha jnana of that. But this is written by those who had the practical or anubhuti of this particular jnanam. That is the purpose. Hari Om.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. Just a question on, I've probably not understood it well enough. See, a yogi does so much tapas, right? Right along the way from the first level to, and then he reaches the highest stage, where he is now able to manipulate, or not manipulate, but to reform or reprocess Prakriti in some way. Would have just thought that because he has such an auspicious, holy intention of how he is proceeding in his efforts, the last bit of trying to create, this chitta nirman, to get rid of whatever little vasanas that are left, even though they may be very sattvic, I'm just thinking, it's like it gives the impression that he's, getting away from some. I mean, it's an easier route because you have the ability, rather than just continue and discover Purusha directly by his own effort. He is passing on the so-called remnants of impurity in whatever form to another form. Just explain, is that, is my thinking biased, or is it there is something that I'm...
Perfect doubt. The question naturally and should come to the mind that after he has achieved so much, why the hell is he now trying to talk about again Vasana? This is because our own understanding of Vasana itself is in a very poor stage. That by the next session, we are going to see exactly the difference between Vasana and Karma Phala Bhoga. You see, it is all, unfortunately, it is mixed up in our mind because we have so repeatedly read something and we have not really bothered to fathom to the proper extent. Vasana, Icha, Karma Phala, all these are bungled up in the mind. Vasana by itself is separate than Karma Phala Bhoga. Karma Shaya, Karma Samskar, and Anubhava Samskar, different things. Let me give you an example. A person is rich, he is making a lot of money and storing it in the house, the ornaments, the rubies, the diamonds, everything. One fine day he realizes it's all bad. There's no point. So he stops making further diamonds and further or doing activities to acquire the wealth. He stopped it. Now what happened, sir, to him? He is no more acquiring wealth. That means he is no more doing karma, so no more diamonds, so no more phalam. Agreed. What about the one that is already lying in the house? Right now he doesn't need them. But is it not that he still has it with them? So what does he do? He has to take an effort to just take them away and distribute it so that then he can say, I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose. This nothing to lose part is the remnants of the smritis of the experiences that were experienced even during the good part of the life, that is Satoguna. It's a very subtle thing which we will, of course, we are going to go in detail when we talk about these different types of Krishna Shukla karma, etc., which may sound a little bizarre at the moment. But the whole purpose is to understand how the last bastion is extremely difficult. That is why it is Kaivalya Pad. See, the thing is, we have in mind a particular impression that Purusha is like a sun. All you need to do is keep doing this and one day you will see a sun. It is not that process. It is getting rid process. Purusha automatically dawns. For that dawning, what all you need to leave? We are into the highest level of living. Now the question is, voluntarily what his chitta was doing, he has not only purified the chitta, he concentrated the chitta, he reached to certain levels. Now what is remaining with yogi? If the yogi doesn't have even the vasana samskar in him, then there is nothing left in yogi. He has already gone beyond Prakruti then. We are talking about the yogi who is at the Prakruti level and just taking a step to kick the Prakruti and get into Purusha. So this is that faint borderline exercise is the beginning sutras of the Kaivalya Pada. That is why, sir, Patanjali Yoga Sutra is not a very easy darshana to study. I'm not saying Nyaya and Vaisheshika are easy anymore, but this requires a certain amount of understanding. We try to put it into our head by putting some stages. Stage 1, Sampradnat, Asampradnat, Nirbish. Fine, this helps in understanding. But the issues that are faced by the yogi at this level need to be understood, that nothing can be carried forward as a prerequisite for the Purusha Khyati. Now, what is that is remaining in yogis as impurity? Now, this is not impurity of the kind that we normally refer to. Mala, Vikshepa, etc. That's all gone. But Smruti Samskar of Vasana Samskar. Now, which are these Vasana Samskar? Because if the karma is not there, desire is not there, phalam is not there, then what is left? There is something left. And that left thing is what? Jnanagni Sarva Karmani. Sarva Karmani. The word is Sarva Karmani Bhasmasat Kurude. So that means first there has to be a fire of knowledge, which the yogi is already having. Now the process of in that fire, the remnants of Karmani. What are those remnants that remain at the level of Siddha Yogi? That is what we need to study so that we understand what is that Bhasmasat Kurute happens. Once that Bhasmasat is happening, thereafter, then what happens? Neither I can speak nor you can hear. Why? Because there is no word to describe. because till the time he has impurity, I will say there are some vasana samskar. Now, can you talk about something which has nothing? There is no chitta, there is no samskar, there is no vasana samskar, there is no anubhav samskar, there is no vasana, there is no karma phala, there is no phala bhoga, nothing, nothing, nothing. Only nothing you can say. But what is there can't be said. Why? Because within Prakruti, we can't describe something which is beyond Prakruti. Words cannot reach neti, neti. So that is the reason. So your doubt is absolutely correct. Bullseye. But that is what precisely the subject of our study. So one more session, when we'll be seeing this karma called Ashukla, Akrushna karma of the yogi, we will come to a point where we will realize that this last effort of yogi is going in which direction. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hello. This is Suresh Jadhav here. I have a question. The yogis, it is said and believed that yogis do not have Karan Deha, the causal body.
Yes.
So if they do not have a causal body, how can the Sanchita karma, will be there and to manifest himself again in the form of whatever yoni to have that bhog of that particular sanchita and then get rid of it. That is how can that is possible when he doesn't have karan deha at all? That is one. Second thing is, even if he has a karan deha and he takes, let's say, a form, nirmana chitta, nirmana kaya form, to bhoga that particular sanchit karma which has matured into prarabdha, there is it is said that he has ability as a yogi to burn the entire prarabdha or sanchit karma. So why should he again take birth when he has a direct access and power to burn everything? That's an easy path. Why should he take a difficult path?
Yes. The Karana Deha is the repository of all the Anubhava Vasana Samskar. What is Anubhava Vasana Samskar and what is Karma Samskar, we will see in the next session. So the repository of all our samskaras, which is called again Sanchita, is in the Karana Deha, agreed. Now in that Karana Deha of the yogi, there are absolutely nothing left as a new karma phala or karma shaya, because he is klesha rahita. Klesh is the cause of karma. Klesh itself is gone with him, thus that is why his karma shaya is gone. That means there is nothing that will fructify him for the bhoga. Now, other than the karma, there is something called tendency of karma. Now, what is tendency of karma is what we call normally as vasana. Vasana we use as a very loose word. The actual word is anubhava vasana samskar, which are there. For example, you are an engineer, you are not doing anything because you are retired. But the fact that you still have the knowledge of what is engineering in chemical engineering is still remaining with you. You are not using it, you don't intend to use it, fine. But you cannot deny that it is still lying in your brain, in your chitta as the knowledge samskar. The question here is, for the Purusha Khyati, even the knowledge samskar has to go away. How do you remove that? To remove that, the bhasmasat karmani kurute, the concept is, we normally feel that it is like in the dormant stage itself, it is burnt out. See, bhasmasat kurute or burnt out is a literary expression. How do you do that? Even to do bhasmasat kurute, kurute means karma. That means karma has to be done. How do you do that? Literally, we say that he burns his sanchita. How does he burn his sanchita? What is the process? Is it something extracting from somewhere, or what is it? What is exactly the procedure? What happens at the chitta level when we say that he burns his sanchita? That process itself is done through the process of nirmana chitta, nirmana kaya. It is the practical process of a yogi. So he is not creating nirmana chitta and kaya for the sake of anything else, but it is for the sake of destruction of last remnants of anubhava vasana samskar lying in the karana deha. And when that is done, his karana deha is gone. Karana deha itself is ajnana. And when ajnana itself is gone, that is the time when no further process is left. The process is not left. The procedure is not left. The processor is not left. Only not can be the only description, because beyond that, so far, nobody has been able to describe, because the one who can describe is gone into a stage where he doesn't describe. So that is exactly the reason why, although he has Karanadeha in a very thin form, without klesha, without having the ajnana, but his ajnana is not as same ajnana as ours. Ours is the thick ajnana. That is why Sthula Sharira is still there. Sukshma is there. He has already transcended these koshas and gone up to Karanadeha. It is at a point where Karanadeha itself is in a very vitiated form. That is why do you think Shankaracharya also had to get into the Parakaya Pravesh and everything? Some small remnants were still there. Shankaracharya was a jnani, maybe for the Avtara Karya purpose, but for Karya you require a karma. So that karma was done even by the Acharya. For the sake of whatever Sanchita was allotted to him during his Avtara Karya, he fulfilled it. Only then the Karana Deha can be completely, because Karana is still remaining. That is why it is called Karana Deha. So the causal body is completely annihilated when there is no cause left. And cause can be Supta Samskara called Anubhava Samskara, which remain in the tendency form, dormant, lying for many jati, desha, kala, bhedam. In the next session, we are going to see how. In fact, Vyasa Maharshi, while commenting, has given a good example that how if you are in a Marjar Yoni, if you are in a cat's birth, how those samskaras can prop up after millions of birth again. What is the process is the subject discussion of the next session. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. I have a question, but if it is getting late for you, then I will send it by.
Fine.
Yeah, and also about others. No. Okay, so this you said that Sutra 5, that the yogi's chitta is the controller of all these created kaya and chitta. So if that is the case, can I'm just thinking aloud. These kayas made and the chittas made can be seen. And if I take the example which you said, Jesus is born of Virgin Mary. In that case, I mean, is the created kaya and chitta is still under the control of the yogi, the controller. In that case, he doesn't have a direct link to the realization. He has to realize to this yogi, and then only realization happens. How is that?
Best analogy for this given in one of the commentary is the head office of a company creates a representative office in a particular city. The office in that city is working independently as if everybody knows there is an office. It is working, it has got some staff, etc. But everything that happens into that outpost called representative office is controlled by the head office. In the same manner, because that representative office is nothing else but replica of a smaller replica of that for a particular functioning. Principally, they are same. We just call it as a branch. In the similar manner, the Nirmana Chitta and Nirmana Kaya of a yogi is nothing else but absolute mirror reflection of the yogi himself. The question here is, there is no restriction on consciousness to remain present in a particular body. The Lord Almighty, full consciousness, Yogeshwara, Krishna, is present in every single thing that is created in the form of individualized entities, jivas, limited adjuncts, upadhis. Now, if Lord can create billions of upadhis, Yogi can create few hundred or tens. The difference is the upadhis that are there under the Prakruti, because of their karma, they are constantly into the evolution stage. In case of Yogi, he has already evolved, so what he creates is only the evolved souls. So the Nirmana Chitta and Nirmana Kaya of the Yogi is also evolved as Yogi. There is no difference between two of them. That is where the question comes to the mind, why the hell is he so hell-bent on creating these? Someone has to answer that. Why the yogi would create? If suppose I want to become, there are two Jnaneshwars coming. Why? When one Jnaneshwar is enough and doing work, we feel it that way. But sir, we do not know. We know only Christ. We don't know whether this Christ was the replica of another Jesus somewhere else where we have no access. These are knowledges privy to only those who are competent to know it. That is why Vivekananda Maharaj in one of his pravachana said, don't ever comment upon Prophet Muhammad or Jesus Christ, because only those who are at that level can comment upon them. The reason is, this limited buddhi cannot understand it. And that is why a Sufi says, दो बाधाकारों के बीच मसाइल उलझ गए हैं. He says, two drunkards are fighting about the wine. Saki aayegi tab ulajh jayenge. When the Lord will come, that will be sorted out. This is not for commoners to bother. Why? Because there is no required height for that. It was only Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are yogis par excellence, Gorakshanath. We are still not in the position to understand the height of these yogis and their achievements. We have reverence for them, but that is too petty a reverence. Their depth, their height is far beyond our comprehension. That is why Nirmana Chitta and Nirmana Kaya is a creation by the yogi for the purpose that he feels at that level which we cannot understand. But Patanjali Maharaj tells us what is the reason behind it. That is why we need to understand Anubhava Savskar in the coming session. Hari Om.